I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy Dore, here with Americans comedian Kurt Metzger and the miserable liberal Steph Zamorano. And here's the headline from CNN. The U.S. ambassador to the UN said that China would cross a red line if the country decided to provide lethal military aid to Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. And here is the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, underscoring that message.
I also had an opportunity, because we're here in Munich, as you know, focused primarily on Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine, to share our very real concerns about China's support for Russia in that war. And what we've seen in over the past years is, of course, some political and rhetorical support, even some non-lethal support. But we are very concerned that China is considering providing lethal support to Russia in its aggression against Ukraine. And I made clear that that would have serious consequences in our relationship as well, something that President Biden has shared directly with President Xi on several occasions. Finally, I underscored the importance of having direct lines of communication, the importance of continuing to engage in diplomacy between our countries. I think this is something that the world expects of us. They expect us to manage this relationship responsibly. And so it was important that we had that opportunity this evening here in Munich.
So Antony Blinken has just accused China of considering sending military support to Russia in its invasion of Ukraine.
Balloons.
Balloons. So that's a serious allegation, right? Now, Chuck Todd, amazingly, I don't know what's gotten into him, but he's going to do something he never, ever does. And no one else ever does on cable news. He's going to ask Antony Blinken for evidence. It's amazing.
I want to start with what I think is the newer piece of information that you're sharing, and I know that we've been reporting separately. This concern that China is considering potential lethal aid in this war to Russia. What evidence can you share with us that indicates your concern that they're going to escalate their help to Russia? As you said, they've been helping them rhetorically. They've been helping them maybe by buying cheap oil. But what is the other evidence that you have here that they're thinking about doing more?
Look at Blinken's face. He's nodding. He's like, he's not supposed to ask this question. He's not supposed to ask this question.
Well, Chuck, China's trying to have it both ways. Publicly, they present themselves as a country striving for peace in Ukraine. But privately, as I said, we've seen already over these past months the provision of non-lethal assistance that does go directly to aiding and abetting Russia's war effort, and some further information that we are sharing today, and that I think will be out there soon, that indicates that they are strongly considering providing lethal assistance to.
It indicates they are strongly considering providing lethal assistance to
Was
Russia.
he just pulling that out of his ass in the moment? That's what it sounded like. And there was also, by the way, the non-lethal aid, is that like they bought gas or something?
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's what that means.
He was not prepared. Dude, you called it. That's exactly what that was. That was like in a comedy, you'd see a guy stammering to make up an answer like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
To Russia. To the best of our knowledge, they haven't crossed that line yet.
What form is that?
But
look at this follow-up from Chuck. What's gotten into him? This is crazy.
Oh my God.
Asking for evidence for an allegation made against an official enemy. This is a rare sight.
Now, Chuck is an AI, right? Has he gotten out of control? Chuck GPT has gotten out of control.
as we're sharing.
Yeah. In what form?
Chuck, I don't want to get into the details in this in this moment.
I just want to say this bullshit to you. I thought you were a human blank, and I was told you were, and I was not expecting a question of any kind.
But there are various kinds of lethal assistance that they are at least contemplating providing, to include weapons.
All right, so that's Blinken. Now, he can't present any evidence, but here's the actual threat that we do see coming from China when it comes to Ukraine, the threat to the U.S. agenda, and that is this.
Ricks?
China looks to convince the world it can broker Russia-Ukraine peace. Beijing floats peace plan that draws skepticism in U.S. and Europe. So right before the U.S. came out with this allegation that China is considering arming Russia, China came out with this plan for a peace agreement inside Ukraine, which they plan to release soon. And the West is not happy about this.
What is the goal? I don't understand the goal of like China is going to provide them aid. Is that to like just get everybody together in one big war, or is that like what would they get out of doing that?
Yeah, it's two things. One, it's continuing to warmonger against China as they did with the balloon, right? And second of all, it's to blunt the impact of this, of China advocating a peace deal and putting that out there by painting China as basically some sort of untrustworthy actor that's on the side of Russia.
So they're considering two plans.
Yeah.
One is a peace deal, and the other is providing lethal types of items, weapons of a certain kind, which are lethal.
That's what Blinken was talking about when he said China wants it both ways. But the U.S. wants it both ways. The U.S. wants to accuse China of warmongering, even while China is putting out a peace agreement. And they want to undermine that by accusing China of being basically on Russia's side. And so we can't trust any peace agreement that they put out there. And that's why they're alarmed. A Chinese peace plan for Ukraine greeted cautiously by the West. Yes. So this is what China has to say about all this. This is China's top diplomat speaking at the Munich Security Conference.
On the Ukraine issue, China's position boils down to supporting talks for peace. We will put forth China's position on the political settlement on the Ukraine crisis and stay firm on the side of peace and dialogue.
So that's the threat to the U.S. from China, is that China is advocating peace and dialogue inside of Ukraine. And a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson has more. He says it is the U.S., not China, that has been pouring weapons into the battlefield in Ukraine. The U.S. is in no position to tell China what to do. China will never accept U.S. finger pointing or coercion on China-Russia relations. And I will play some of this clip and I will translate it, what he's saying here. He says, it is the U.S., not China, that has been pouring weapons into the battlefield. The U.S. is in no position to tell China what to do. We would never stand for finger pointing or even coercion and pressurizing from the U.S. on our relations with Russia. On the Ukraine issue, China's position boils down to supporting talks for peace.
Boo!
The international community is fully aware who is calling for dialogue and striving for peace, and who is fanning the flames and stoking confrontation. We urge the U.S. side to seriously reflect on the role it has played, do something to actually help de-escalate the situation and promote peace talks, stop deflecting the blame and spreading disinformation. China will continue to stay firm on the side of peace and dialogue and play a constructive part in easing the situation.
Like, look, we don't even like Russia.
So that's the role China's playing. And again, China's top diplomat has more. This is Wang Yi.
There is a saying in ancient China, a virtuous man may love money, but he earns it in an honorable way. A crook, however, uses any means possible. Today's U.S. has torn off all pretense. It even forgoes schemings and robs in the open.
So Professor Wang.
So that's strong words there. He's saying the U.S. robs in the open. And openly, the U.S. is accusing China of warmongering, even as China floats a peace proposal, because in the eyes of the U.S., a call for peace in Ukraine is a threat to the U.S. agenda and thus must be treated as an act of war.
Everybody knows war is peace. Freedom of slavery.
Doing live stand-up comedy in Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member. Get access to all our content.